Many frustrations and pains that we all are enduring and observing in our community, and many times we walk right past them, shaking our head because we either don't know what to do about it or we don't care what to do about it. Can the church say amen? Many of us find ourselves guilty of seeing people broken and passing by and going on to church. We leave people broken because many times we live in the comfort of our homes or the places where we dwell and forget about the people and what it must be like to be broken, to be on drugs. Many of us have been there, but we've forgotten where we were. But I'm here to tell us tonight that if we are to see the community transform and if we are to see the community change, we got to open our eyes and pay attention. The first thing that Jesus often did is he intentionally went places where there were people hurting. He could have walked or gone another way, but he many times had needs, as the scriptures say, to go through Samaria. Now, Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Why would you go through Samaria? Thinking about Luke, the passage in the Bible where it says that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem and intentionally went between Samaria and Galilee on his way to Jerusalem. There were other ways to go, but Jesus wanted to go through the place where there were people who were quarantined from society. These people had some rare disease called leprosy. I couldn't quite understand what leprosy was, and today we don't really know what it was, but we know it was some sort of incurable disease. People saw them, experienced them, were friends with them, and then something happened to them, and people withdrew from them. Have you ever had friends in your life, and then you became addicted, or you went through something in your life, and you looked around and realized all the people that you thought were your friends, your posses, your buddies, all of them were gone? Many times because they realize ain't nothing I can do with him. So they disassociate themselves. They leave you out there alone. Alone. Have you ever felt alone? Can the church say amen? If you ever felt alone, I felt alone. I have a family of 7 siblings in my family. And it's hard to be alone when you got 7 brothers and sisters in one house. But even in the midst of a crowd, there are people in this room right now, but you feel alone. You feel alone in your situation. You feel alone. You feel isolated. There is no friends. There are people around, but nobody understands me. Anybody ever felt that way? Nobody knows the pain I feel. So when people say, how are you doing? You say, I'm fine. It's a cultural assimilation to say I'm fine. When half the time when we say I'm fine, we are not fine. But we feel like we can't say how we really feel because somebody will judge us. Somebody will isolate themselves from us. So if we try to tell them something, they'll get our information and use it against us. So then we become isolated. We build walls around ourselves, kind of like 10 men who were down on the roadside, quarantined from society. We don't know their names. We just know their condition. Some of us have been identified by our condition, that drug addict. Oh, that black dude, the one with the dreads, the one with the curly hair, some of that professor over there at Regent. Many of us live in a society that people know us by our description and not by who we really are. Is anybody in here today know what I'm talking about? That's not who I am. Doctor is not who I am. The other day, I was introducing myself in a group of people that Brian had us meeting on Friday with a lot of urban leaders. And I got up and I introduced myself, and I said, Antipas Harris. Afterwards, somebody came to me and said, why you didn't say doctor? Why you didn't say professor? That's a high calling. You know what I said to her? I said, because that's not who I am. That's not who I am. People need to know who we really are. Most of all, we need to know who we really are. And if we come to Jesus for who we really are, not our titles, not our last names, not our associations, not by the character of which that we have assimilated, not by our addictions, but saying, God, here I am. Take me here as I am. Are you hearing me? That's why I hate when people read resumes, because they have already set the stage for how people are going to receive you. But Jesus is saying, I want to see people for who they really are, and I want to bless them out of their conditions, that same condition that society has written them off about. Can I tell you something? When I was a little boy, I had problems with learning, that the school told my parents that I had a learning disability. Oh, I love to tell the story. And they put me in special education. Don't you know, if my parents had accepted what people said about me, that I would have just become, oh, you know, he's special. He can't learn like everybody else. But my dad, I remember I couldn't learn my facts. 2 plus 2 is 6. 3 plus 1 10. I was in the 3rd grade and didn't know my facts. Simple facts. My dad would plaster the wall around in my room, big red posters. 2 plus 2 is 4. 3 plus 2 is 5. Embarrassing, right? Your friends come to your house and see your room is all full of these facts. But what he said is that I'm determined that you can learn. Oh, God. So the point that I want to make tonight right here, the subpoint is the I can't syndrome must die. Repeat after me. The I can't syndrome must die. It's easy for us to accept our situations. Let your life plan be based on passion and not convenience. There is always a good reason why you can't do this or that. George Washington Carver once said 99% of failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. Challenges are inevitable, but defeat is optional. Repeat after me. Challenges are inevitable, but defeat is optional. This is our time to overcome the I can't syndrome. Regardless of what situations have characterized us, we can't meander in the wilderness of I can't. As a young boy, I remember reading the book called I Think I Can. Various engines, larger engines, are asked to pull the train. You know the story. For various reasons, they refuse. The request is sent to a small engine, which agrees to try. The engine succeeds in pulling the train over the mountain while repeating this motto, I think I can. Let's determine that if it's the last thing we do, we will fulfill our God-given destiny. The I can't syndrome must die. In his famous campaign speech, Yes, We Can, Barack Obama said it was whispered by slaves and abolitionists as they blaze a trail toward freedom through the darkest of night. Yes, we can. It was the call of workers who organized, women who reached for the ballot, a president who chose the moon as our new frontier, and a king who took us to the mountaintop and pointed to the promised land. But sisters and brothers, I'm here to say that if they can do it, we can do it. George Frederick Handel. What I'm saying here tonight, regardless of what society says about us, regardless of what the status quo is, regardless of the problems even in our government does not have the answer to our problems. I'm here to tell us today that if we are to see our passion overcome our challenge, we got to have an encounter with Jesus. Jesus on his way to Jerusalem goes between Samaria and Galilee, and he sees over on side of the road a group of quarantine people who were nursing their challenge, who were learned to accept who they were. But when they saw Jesus, their passion overcame their challenge. They screamed with a loud noise and said, "Oh, Son of David, have mercy on us." Jesus looked around and said to them, "Go show yourself to the priests." Now, what's interesting is in the Old Testament, showing yourself to the priests was going to get you quarantined from society. Showing yourself to the priest was not something you really wanted to happen, because the priest was not going to have mercy. But what they found out is that as they went, they were healed. I'm going to tell somebody in here tonight that it may not happen to you overnight, but if you grab the faith and allow your passion and your faith to overcome your challenge, when you see Jesus, scream out to him, and as you go, touch your neighbor and say, as you go. My God, as you go, repeat after me, as I go. I'm not perfect overnight. I'm not even halfway there. But I can tell you that where I've been is not where I'm going. As I go. Yes, I know I was on drugs, and you may say, yes, I know I had an alcoholic addiction, but as I go. One problem is complacency. When you stay where you've been and don't move from where you've been, then you can never see something different than what you already see. If you do something that you have never did, you may experience something you never experienced. As I go. I tell students, listen, the beginning of the semester, start working towards the end. Don't wait till the night before everything is due and think you're going to make an A and stay up all night. Oh, my God, I think I need to see a specialist. Start. The turtle doesn't get upset with the rabbit. Just keep going. I may be slow, but I'm going. That's what my dad taught me. When I learned to read, I could barely read well. Read very slow, but he said just keep reading. I read my way into becoming an author of 2 books. I read my way into becoming an author of several articles. I read my way to becoming a professor at Regent University. I read my way into becoming a doctor. And guess what? I don't care if the ones who got their PhD didn't go to special ed when they were little. We got the same degree. I went as I go. I may be slow, but I'm coming. Touch your neighbor and say, I might be slow, but I'm coming. I may not be rich, but I'm coming. I may not have everything I need, but I'm on my way. Don't judge me. Don't hate. Celebrate. I'm moving, and I'm going to get there sooner or later. The problem in society is that people stop. Before they get there, they stop. But I want to encourage you tonight. Don't stop. A winner never loses, and a loser never wins. And this is where I'm going tonight. As they were going, they saw themselves get healed. And they got complacent with that. They were cool. Why? Because they got results in calling on the Lord. And this is where many of us are. We get results when we call on the Lord, and we just glory in the results. But there was one guy who looked at himself and said, my goodness, I got results. I'm healed. And he said, I better turn back and tell him, thank you. Too educated for God. What he meant was, don't pray and seek God for what you want, and then once you get it, you forget God. Oh, touch your neighbor and say, don't forget God. There's some people, they pray and pray and pray. You can get them to go to church when they ain't got nowhere to live. They get a place to live, you don't see them no more. People get a job and they pray and pray and pray when they ain't got no job. Get a job and then you don't see them no more. Pray and pray and pray, get them through college, and then they get through college and then you don't see them anymore. You're just like the other 9 that went on about their business, took what Jesus had and kept going. But there was one, somebody say one. There was one that looked at what God had done for him, and he turned around and he came running back and he bowed down to him and said, thank you. Touch your neighbor and say, let me be the one. Let me be the one. Let me be the one. Let me be